Actually, talking about lip reading, I once did this program, Vision On, years ago. It was a visual program for, it was started off for a program for, you know, the deaf, and then eventually it was shared with the whole nation. It was a great program. It won awards all over the world. We were filming once in the Arctic, and they took us out, not the Arctic, up into the Alps in Switzerland. And of course, Tony Hart, I don't know, he was a great painter. He painted this picture of the Alps, and I was in the studio wearing light slacks, sand shoes we call them, and a t-shirt, and I was dusting it, and I fell into the picture. So my character fell into the picture, and we ended up in the real, mountains. And they put me on one of those chairs going down, around like that, and they were going to have the camera team film me as I was coming round. Now, it was all right while we were in the sunshine, but we went behind the mountain. It was so cold! And then they decided to discuss the shot while they dangled me in one of these chairs, and I didn't put my hand on the metal, otherwise it would stick. I mean, that's how cold it was. And I was on this thing, and then and the way down there, people were going, wee, wee, skis, and I was stuck. And then eventually it started, and the camera came by, and I was doing my reaction, and then we got to the other end, and they said, oh, we missed it, can we do it again? So I said, yes, okay, but don't leave me dangling. Honestly, please, it's hell. I mean, it was unbelievable hell. And so they said, oh, we won't. What did they do? Dangling. So, this is to do with lip reading. So then anyway, the next time they came by, I was so cold, and the only way I could keep alive was to just shout and swear and curse and damn. I did the whole thing. I just did, and of course they filmed it, and they said, "Wow, that was great," but they didn't hear me because I was, Anyway, they put it out on a program for the deaf who could lip read. There were complaints.
Scenes were tiny. Everything was in black and white. And you had to walk up to the television, turn a switch, and switch it on. And sometimes it wouldn't really come on, but you'd wait a bit, and you'd see this little spot getting bigger like this, and it would gradually get bigger, wouldn't it? And then you'd have a thing called an aerial on the TV, which was like these metal sticks poking up. And occasionally you'd find yourself having to watch stuff in very funny positions around the house. So you're trying to get a signal. Gosh, it's amazing, isn't it? So yeah, that's my first memories of Doctor Who with a sort of wonky TV set. The first Doctor I really remember is John Pertwee. And I fell in love with Jo Grant, with Katie Manning. I just thought she was very cute, and I kind of wanted to look after her. I mean, I must have been all of 7 or 8, I suppose. And then Sarah Jane Smith, of course.
The first Doctor.
Well, I suppose in a way, yeah, there is some truth in that, because I hadn't seen Doctor Who since the first few years of Tom Baker, because I become an actor and gone off, and no recording means no repeats, nothing, so I didn't really know much about Doctor Who. But I had a distant memory of Patrick Troughton, and he was the one that I'd first seen, and his Doctor had stuck with me, so I kind of suppose that's where that came from, yeah. But generally it was just a distant memory, and I was just making it up as I went along.
Best way sometimes.
Thank you.
Hello, my question is for Sylvester Mccoy. You were on the 1986 film with Paul McGann. I know you mentioned this in your last panel, that you were already friends with him and such. And the 1996 film, in a lot of ways, was sort of foreshadowing what was going to happen with the 2005 revival. It was a lot more sort of glamorous, a lot more charm.
You would say what? Charm? Are you inferring there was no charm? Paul McGann?
Paul McGann is very charming. But I was just wondering what your opinion was on, if you had an opinion on the transition at the time, or the way the series was going. There are people who really don't like the revival because they think it's not true to the old series, and at the time, during this transition, if you had qualms about the direction they were taking it, or if you thought it was good.
Yes. No, well, I mean, you know, the kiss, that bit, I didn't think that was right. And I thought, I mean, but now, you know, the 21st century doctors, they're all at it all the time, aren't they? What I can gather, I haven't seen a lot because I've been working all the time, but yeah, that I wasn't kind of keen on. But it's a very long question. I've forgotten how it started. I'm joking. No, he lied. No, I think. Well, what about it? It was, you know, it's the way it's gone. Steven Moffat, on the 50th anniversary of the party, came up to me afterwards and said, I've got to say that your doctor changed the way the whole thing worked. I had no idea. I mean, I had no idea. Because, as I said earlier, I had a distant memory of a doctor. But I came along completely ignorant and played it the way I was playing it. And Andrew and I got on really well on this subject, and we kind of did what we were doing. I'm not sure if Andrew knew too much about Doctor Who.
Talons of Wayne Chiang, and the modern two Smith and Jones.
Yeah, Talons of Wayne Chiang, I do remember that one because there was a guy in it called Trevor Baxter. I thought he was in that one, wasn't he? Wonderful actor. And he lived in some flats in Blackheath, just down the end of our garden. I mean, that sounds a bit weird, but we could see the flats where he lived. And I just thought it was amazing that there was this actor walking around Blackheath who'd been in Doctor Who. And it was really amazing. Anyway, years later, I'm doing a big finish. And of course met up with Trevor Baxter again, because they now do the wonderful Jago and Lightfoot. I don't know if you haven't tried those out, the Big Finish. They're wonderful. They've reprised their roles from Talons of Wayne Chiang, and was able to tell Trevor that. It was really, really wonderful.
Yeah, Robert Holmes created those characters and wrote that fantastic script. I think he was the great Doctor Who writer of the classic era.
Yes. There's another one called The Green Death, with John Pertwee, and I remember that one because I was terrified of those maggots. And then the new ones, I know this is crazy because the Doctor's not in it very much, but I love Blink. And more recently, I love the Mummy on the Train.
Yes.
Fantastic. I enjoy all of them though. Some people say, you know, oh, that was a terrible episode of Doctor Who last night. And I'm completely like, oh, but I just love it all.
I can't remember, because as I said, the old classical ones I hadn't seen for 20 odd years before I
Do you remember seeing the Daleks in the classic series?
I remember yeah, well, yes, I do actually, yes, I can remember now the Daleks. Yeah, the Cybermen, I remember, but it's only distant memory really, I can't remember. But what was amazing was that when the Daleks were on, if you looked out the window, there was no one on the streets of London. Everybody was at home watching, you know, Doctor Who, because there was only two channels then, and the whole world were watching the Daleks. I always kind of wondered how the Daleks became so frightening. A couple of pepper pots walking down the road. I was doing a signing in a shop, and it was a children's department, toys and things, and there was a little queue of children, and they were asking my autograph, and it was all very sweet. And then I suddenly saw this girl, and she was terrified. I mean, pure, utter, complete, horrifying terror. And I thought, what's going on? I looked behind me in a Dalek, I just walked past. And I thought, oh. And so I stood up and I said to her, don't worry, I'm the Doctor, you're safe with me.
Working with Sylvie and Sophie on a great team of writers. And I think Sophie has a quick announcement that she'd like to make. Just like to mention Strangeness in Space. Can you tell us a little more about that? Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, please.
What's your favorite ace pins?
Favorite what?
Ace pins.
Ace.
Badges. Oh, it's got to be my Blue Peter badges.
I like the Baker Street irregulars.
Which one?
The one with the magnifying glass on it.
Oh, yeah.
I like the name on the back. Ace! It's that way I never had to learn that line. I just had to look at Sophie's back and say, oh, that's what I said. I'm such a liar. Yeah, the thing about the TARDIS and the BBC is that when we were filming on location, they didn't really bring too many portaloos. And, you know, a lot of the technicians, you know, desperate for a pee, would go use the TARDIS. It was horrible. Anyway, that's your answer.
The interior TARDIS set we used in Dragonfire, but of course it was fantastically disappointing because it was really just...
It wasn't bigger on the inside.
2 bits of, yeah, it was 2 flats as we call them.
It was a console and a little bit of background, wasn't it?
It was still quite thrilling to be inside the TARDIS. We didn't have many interior TARDIS.
No, well, I deliberately steered clear of them in the script because I thought they were kind of a dead zone as far as the story was concerned. Nothing very dramatic could happen in the TARDIS, I felt. I felt we should use the TARDIS as a setup and get out of there as quickly as possible. But I do remember, while we were at the BBC, there had been this sort of mahogany console, they'd done this sort of wood TARDIS interior for the Tom Baker Doctor, and it was this amazing thing of beauty, and they'd just left this wooden TARDIS interior outside in the rain, and it just warped, so that the BBC had never really cared much about the TARDIS interior. But yeah, I think that sort of sums up our memories at the time.
And of course, the other thing about it was, as you say, they didn't really care. They never thought Doctor Who would last. After 25 years, Wicked did the 25th anniversary, but they still didn't think it was going to last. And they've got this old TARDIS which was falling down, it should have been condemned, it was dangerous. And we'd go in it, and you know, it was all wobbly, and there would be about 10 men had to come and lift it to move it. But sometimes we were in the TARDIS, Sophie and I, and a man with a big car battery and wires, and he was making the lights go on and off. And he would go clinking and clinking, and so he was in there. Sometimes there was another technician, sound technician. You know, it was like this sometimes, wasn't it?
And there used to be this black cloth curtain across the door, so the light wouldn't come out. And this TARDIS would be carried around on location, just like this rickety wooden thing, and the paint was peeling off. And do you remember the first time I saw it? I was shocked. It was like this scabby thing, and they used to have to come and touch up the paint before they shot it. It was, yeah. I mean, what was fantastic is that such a kind of